Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Casually Fit Podcast. My name is Rob. It is episode, I believe, 39. Moving up there. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm excited. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday morning. We got the rest of the week ahead of us. The beginning of the week is going by pretty good. If you're in the crypto market, it's not going that great, but everything else is going pretty good. The summer is upon us, and the heat is coming. I'm actually going surfing with a couple of my buddies here in a couple of days. So that's always a good time just to cruise out with the boys and, watch one of my friends try to surf for their second time, which is always entertaining for myself. But other than that, I'm excited about this week's episode, right? I got a couple things to show you. Going to get into the Fit Fighter of the Week, show you somebody who has lost 100 pounds naturally, which is always a good thing. I'm also going to go over the 15 common mistakes that people make when they're trying to lose weight. I have a link down in the description box for the article it's from healthline.com, I believe. I have a link down there. It has a wealth of information. I'm going to go over it, but if you want to follow along, or if you want to skip ahead, go ahead, check that out. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to get into the Fit Freak of the Week as well. Because I want to show you somebody that's just killing it. And the person I'm going to show you this week is very athletic. It seems like they're trying to be Insta famous, and I'm here for it, okay? Because I'm very entertained at what they are doing, what this person is doing. But yeah, let's get into it. But before I get into it, a little update on myself. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, right? If you've been following this podcast, you know that I have gone through a couple of injuries. A month ago, I just ate it completely on my skateboard. That one right there, cruising, trying to do a manual, at around 15, 20 miles per hour with sandals on and not really paying attention as much as I should. Not really the best combination. And I took a chunk out of my toe. That's like the worst part of my injury. Thankfully, nothing like crucial happened, just lost a bunch of skin. And it took a month for my injuries to heal up, for me to regrow basically all those cells in my skin back. And now my toe looks normal again, so that's dope. I'm excited about that. And also, in the beginning of the year, didn't start off that great. Went on a snowboard trip, messed up my back even more than what it was. But now, this is the good news. Now, no pain. I feel great. My core is impeccable right now. And my lower back pain, I would just, basically for the last several years, out of 7 days a week, I would feel moderate to high levels of pain about 6 to 7 of those days. Every single week, week in and week out, 52 weeks a year. And, it's just something that I got used to. And now, after pretty much being forced, I think me falling off of that skateboard helped me slow down as much as I should have, because now I feel great. Now my back does not feel weak. It doesn't feel very strong. It feels more neutral. Now it's like this whole building process for myself, to now that I'm just at, an even playing field. So it's not completely great. I have higher levels I'm trying to achieve with it, but now it feels great. And it's really weird and startling to see the difference of how my life was with all that pain and how it is without it. My workouts are completely different. Just picking up dumbbells would hurt. And so now I can even raise the dumbbells even more because I'm not having to worry about dealing with a bunch of pain and possibly injuring myself more by carrying the dumbbells over the bench. So that changes it. Also, being able to put weight on my shoulders, being able to push off with my legs, being able to run and do cardio without any tinge of pain, it's huge. So I feel great in that regards. And I'm just looking forward to what's about to happen with myself and my body over the course of the next several years. I believe I'm 31. I haven't checked in a while. But I'm 31 years old. In my eyes, I feel like I still have a couple more years of peak ability. There can be an argument that I'm past it, but I like to be somewhat delusional. And so I'm going to convince myself that I still have a couple more years. And now that I don't have any back pain, I'm really going to push that as far as I can go. I'm really going to try to see what I can do. Every day in the gym over the past several years is like I do as much as I can, but there's so much more that I want to do. And I would go day in and day out, having to face that, having to, want to put out 100%, and be putting out 100%, but on like the actual scale of what my possibilities are, it was just at a much lower level. So I'm excited to see what happens. More injuries are to come for sure. Shoulder injuries, knee injuries, possibly reflame up my back, I'm sure. But just feeling this period of time with no pain, it feels great, gives me more hope, and stoked on the future for that. Especially excited about surfing, because now I can just do a whole lot more things surfing. And, it's from having a healthy body. And I think that's, not everybody needs to, be super athletic or anything, but it is great to have a healthy body and have a body that you can just kind of use as a vehicle, right? If you have a garage, having a healthy body is like having a garage filled with an off-road vehicle, a race car, a minivan, an electric vehicle, having the whole array of vehicles to choose from. So whatever you feel like doing that day, you can just jump in that vehicle and do it. And that's the way I kind of look at it with my body, is I want to have options open to me, and having a healthy body without pain creates more options. Like before, I would want to go on hikes, but I'd be like, well, my back will for sure be hurting the entire time. And there's a good chance that towards the end of the hike, my back will be hurting at an extreme level to where I will just want to give up. And of course, I can't give up. So probably push myself further into pain and injuring myself. And that's probably why it took me so long to finally fix all this. But anyway, so I'm just stoked on that. I wanted to share it with you. But let's get into the Fit Fighter of the Week, all right? This is somebody who has lost, again, 100 pounds naturally. Looks like she's an influencer of some sort. She's a fitness trainer, sending out all that great information of how she lost the weight, setting you up with some meal programs, getting you some weight loss tips, some workouts. So clearly somebody that you should be following, somebody that you should be checking out if you're trying to lose weight. Again, if you're trying to lose weight, you got to go, talk to people like me who haven't necessarily had that much weight to lose. And also talk to, for sure, probably more than me, I would say. I've got no ego in this. Talk to somebody who has lost all that weight. And the great thing about the internet, Instagram, people just tell you their journey. They just tell you all the ins and outs of it, especially people trying to be Instagram influencers off their body or whatever. They're trying to post every single day, so they're just like telling you everything. They got to fill up these posts. So it's good for you, right? You get all that information. And if you look at it as an opportunity to gain more information that can hopefully help you with your journey, then that's just great, right? So her name is Ray Simone, and you go to Instagram at I am Ray Simone. The link's down in the description box if you don't want to type it in. Again, looks like she's sponsored by 24 Hour Fitness and Under Armour, so that's pretty big, right? They don't really hand those out. So again, definitely somebody to follow. As you can see here, if you're watching the video, you can see the transformation, clearly 100 pounds lost, right? So that's great. She'll show you some green smoothies, it looks like. She'll show you some great workouts, or her in the air. Some great workouts. Looks like she's about to, put a hole in the earth or something, slamming that ball down. And looks like she's doing some boxing. Either way, I don't need to go through this woman's whole Instagram. You get the point. At this stage of the game, if you're listening to this podcast, you already know the Fit Fighter of the Week. This person posts workouts, posts meals, posts inspiration. And that's exactly what she's doing. So I'm not going to spoil it here for you. Just go ahead and check her out. Because again, she lost 100 pounds naturally. That is not the easiest thing to do. I'm sure most of you know that by now. But I want to get into now. So go check her out. I am Ray Simone on the Instagram. She's got a website. She's got all that. Shout her out. She's got virtual training, one-on-one virtual training as well. So that's great. Other than that, let's get into, because I got a long list today, right? But I'm going to try to keep it as eventful as I can. And I missed the quote. I'm going to try to remember to give you a quote at the end of it because I don't feel like messing up this flow. I was going to start this podcast with a quote. But let's get into the 15 common mistakes. So, posting stuff on the internet like healthline.com, I think this is where I got it from. They got to fill content. They got to get the search keywords. So they're going to give you a long list of things. The list can help you out, right? The list, looking through these lists can definitely, this is the way I look at it. If I'm ever in this situation where I'm trying to find something out about myself or try to improve myself, and I find myself online and in a sea of lists from, do I have a list? I don't know. But if I'm trying to wade through a sea of all these top lists with like 15, 20 things on there, I read them, right? I read them quickly, right? Because they're long. And I don't read them with the intent to completely carbon copy everything that I read and put it onto myself. I just read it with an open mind. Most of the time with these lists, I can't say it. I want to stay away from that word. Most of the time with these things, you're going to be like, yes, of course. But you read the whole entire list to get like maybe just one or two little nuggets of information, one or two things that could show you a blind spot that you clearly didn't see because it's a blind spot, right? So I would suggest, especially with the weight loss, there are so many. I mean, man, it's just, you got to go through so much crap to try to lose weight and try to gain information online. There's just a sea of just garbage online when it comes to this stuff. So I get it. If you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to find information online, you're like, oh, he's telling me to read the list? I am. I'm telling you to read it fast and to just really look for one or two things. But so I find these things to be beneficial, but also they're very cumbersome, and a lot of them is kind of wasted information, right? Some of them can be considered a waste of your time unless you find that one thing. However, with this list today, I find it great. I read through this, I looked through it, and it's got some great information. I got some great points to talk to you about. Starting with number 1. So their suggestion on a common mistake people make is that people only focus on the scale weight. So this is something that I have said over and over again, and it's completely true. You cannot focus, day in, day out looking at the scale for several reasons. For one reason, you could just be holding water weight, right? You can just be holding more water weight, and that could not reflect on the scale, right? They even talk about it in this little short paragraph that they have. So that's one reason. Also, it's not completely just once you start exercising and dieting, you're every hour thereafter, you're not just going to be losing, percentages of pounds. That's just not how our bodies work. Again, with water weight, there's lean mass in it, there's fat, there's all these different things that go into it. So you're really setting yourself up for failure by looking at the scale every day, because you're going to be expecting that you're going to lose weight. You're going to wake up in the morning and maybe you're just like, oh, yesterday was very difficult. It was very hard for me to stick to my diet. It was hard for me to exercise. I got to be down at least a couple pounds. And so you go in expecting the weight loss, and then you read the scale and maybe it says that you haven't lost any weight. Maybe you stayed the same weight, or maybe you gained a couple pounds. And that can throw somebody completely off track. That could just make you just kick everything aside and be like, you know what, I'm getting a Twinkie for breakfast this morning. They actually have Twinkie cereal. Can you believe that? So that can make you just be like, you know what, today's my off day, even though it wasn't supposed to be. But all of a sudden, today's your off day, and you're stuffing your face with McDonald's. You're not exercising. And then the next day, you're like, well, this diet doesn't even work. Exercising doesn't even work, so why should I even continue? And then that's how you fall off. So that's why this is a great thing to see, and a great thing to recognize that you shouldn't do is stop focusing on the scale weight. And here's a quote from them. It says, in fact, weight can fluctuate up to 4 pounds. So your weight can fluctuate up to 4 pounds over the course of a day, depending on how much food and liquid you've consumed. So our weights fluctuate. Stop checking it out. And they have a great tip in here, and I believe it might be a tip, maybe not in this one or a different one, but one great tip is to take a picture of yourself instead. Take a picture of yourself, pick a pose, pick the lighting, pick everything the same. So it's the same background, same angle, same height, same everything, same angle of your body, maybe front, side, close up, whatever you want to do, right? And take a picture of yourself, maybe every day, every week, whatever it is. Now, you need to have caution with this. Don't be like a lot of people who take selfies and they just, slam their thumb on that thing like a million times, like they're playing that birdie game. Remember that little birdie game? Like, it might be called Birdie. They took it off, or Flapper. What was the name? They took it off the App Store, I think. The developer, it's such a great game, but you have to push it so much to keep the bird flying around or whatever. So don't be doing that with your picture and take 100 of these pictures and find the perfect one. So don't do that. Just take one picture from each angle and be done with it. And also, this is not NCIS. This is not First 48. Do not survey the crime scene. Do not be nitpicking at your body after you take the picture. Just take the picture and then save it in your folder and don't look at it. I would suggest for months or even a year. Just take the picture and then you will actually see your progression, right? And over the course of a year, you're going to see the weight progression. But if you're really trying to see the difference, again, to not focus on the scale, you can take pictures, don't look at them every day, don't scrutinize them, don't spend minutes or hours of your day scrutinizing these pictures, but just take them and then check back every couple weeks, every month or so, like that. And that can help you out. So either way, first tip, don't focus on the scale weight. All right, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Your mood for the entire day can depend on what the scale says, and that's not good, right? That's just not good, especially if you're going, like, if you just went a week following your diet and exercising, and then for whatever reason you just retained more water or you gained more lean muscle mass, your weight stayed the same, and you could be completely thrown off a, like, almost like a false reading, right? Or a false interpretation of the reading. So it's just not good. Stay away from doing it. I know it's hard for the go-getters out there. They want to know every day. Really, again, the success rate of losing weight is not high. Okay, so this is definitely a point to attribute to a high failure rate. So don't do it, for sure. All right, that's a very common mistake, and it's something that we have been told to do. I mean, this is a notion that has only been recently, like, hey, you should stop looking at the weight. This is only like 5 years. Over the course of the last 5 years, people have really been saying this. So I get if you're a little hesitant towards it. Now, next tip, don't eat too many calories or too few calories. All right, this is kind of like a no-duh. So I'm not going to really dive into it. They do go over some pretty cool things in here. Here's one thing that they showed, which I think it gets into another tip, but I'll get into it right now. But of course, eating too many calories, you shouldn't be eating too many calories, right? You shouldn't be in a caloric deficit or caloric surplus. You need to be in a caloric deficit. So clearly, don't eat too many calories. I'm not sure if that's a common mistake. But, don't do that, right? This is kind of an obvious one. This is one when you're reading the list, you're like, oh, of course, right? So don't do that, clearly. And also don't eat too few calories. Like, don't try to see how many calories you can go, without dying, because then all of a sudden the next day you might die. So don't do that either. Now, one thing that they point out in here, which is great, is that there was a 2-week study where 10 obese people, which, it's not many, that's not a great sample size at all. But in a 2-week study, 10 obese people reported that they consumed just 1,000 calories per day. They said, I'm losing weight. I'm only consuming 1,000 calories per day. When they asked them, hey, how many calories you're consuming? They said 1,000 firmly. And what did it end up being? Well, it ended up being that they miscalculated by a lot. They were actually eating about 2,000 calories per day. So this gets into a couple of the other steps or a couple of the other mistakes I'm going to get into later. But definitely keep track of everything more closely and, don't overestimate or underestimate what's going on. So that tip, of course, right? Number 3, again, this is kind of a no-don't one, right? But this is not exercising or exercising too much. So if you're trying to lose weight and you find yourself not exercising, that's a mistake. You need to exercise. And if you find yourself exercising too much, now I'll get into that in a second. Let me talk about not exercising. So when it comes to losing weight, it is important that you, if you try to lose weight without exercising, what's going to happen is there's a very good chance that, yes, you do lose weight and that you do lose fat, but you could also lose muscle mass. And actually losing your muscle mass can actually slow down your metabolism, making it harder for you to actually lose weight. So that's one of the reasons why exercising is pretty important to keep your metabolic rate up, so it's quote unquote easier for you. I know it's not the best way to put it, but it's quote unquote easier for you to lose weight, and so you gain some more lean muscle mass because that also helps you retain the weight that you're losing, right? And so the common mistake is, again, I think I've even shown y'all a Fit Fighter of the Week who said that they didn't exercise. And I'm not a fan of that, all right? I kind of showed you that person on mistake. But yeah, it's by studies. If you go to the link, it links a few great studies that you can check out. But by the science, you need to exercise to lose weight. You need to diet and you need to exercise. So make sure that you're doing that. Don't listen to people. Usually what comes with somebody telling you not to exercise to lose weight is they're trying to sell you on some sort of meal plan or some sort of diet plan, and they're making it like, oh, this is going to be easier and blah, 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 all of that. And so it's usually like a sales pitch or just not really good advice. It's one of the two. It's either a sales pitch or not that good of advice. So make sure you are exercising. Now, when it comes to exercising too much, their reason to warn you on not exercising too much is that it's not sustainable over time. And I would agree with that. Very intense exercising really wears down the body. It could wear down your mental state. And if you're not replenishing yourself, you can't really keep it up. And also, if you're maxing out every day, your body's just, even if you're trying to pump yourself up with nutrients and everything, it's probably going to break down anyways. So I would still heed against that warning. But, if you're trying to lose weight, I don't think you should be worried about exercising too much. I think that you're probably going to be pretty good. I think that if you see yourself slowly deteriorating, then that is a time to adjust course. But I think that is far away from where you're at. I think that, that over exercising, I think that's something that is going to be more common with people who are at a healthier weight, and the detriment to that is going to be people who are more at a healthier weight. And I just don't think that you should have that limit in your mind. Be like, oh, I think I'm exercising too much. I think you should be putting out as much as possible. So I'm kind of indifferent on that one. But moving on to number 4, common mistake is not lifting weights. So this kind of piggybacks off of what we were just talking about. Lifting weights, you need to, you want to aid your metabolic rate. You want to increase it, and lifting weights builds that lean mass, and that's really going to help you increase that, your metabolic rate, and it's going to help you, again, maintain your weight loss. So lifting weights, I know it might not be for women out there. I mean, women, there's a spectrum of men, there's a spectrum of women. There's definitely a lot of women who love being in the gym, clanging and banging and hitting the weights. But when I go into the gym, any gym, 90% of the people that are lifting weights is going to be men. And I get that some women are kind of hesitant towards lifting weights. It's not really, this is not something I think. This is something that I see out in the world, right? So let's be clear about that. I don't think this is right at all. But some women kind of, some women might still be in that man role, woman role, right? I'm getting myself in some hot water today. I went swimming and I just jumped into the deep end on accident. But just know that yes, if you have these traditional things in your mind of like how women used to be, and you think that carries over to today and that keeps you away from lifting weights, that shouldn't be something that should keep you from lifting weights. Lifting weights doesn't have to mean that all of a sudden one day you're going to be like, I need to bench 225 pounds, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that. And I think that's something that's being revealed more and more. Resistance training with weights, for women, men, it's absolutely needed. And as far as having different types of workouts, like if you go into a gym, you might see men and women doing a few of the same exercises, a lot of the same exercises, but you see the way that the two different sexes kind of attack those exercises is much different. For most men, again, this isn't even me. This is just a lot of men just get in there and they start just clanging and banging. They're like, how much weight can I put up? How much can I stack onto my shoulders to be a manly man? So you got that. And then you have women who are typically like, yeah, no, I'm trying to get toned, right? I'm trying to, I would like to lift heavier weight, but you don't see women sitting down at a row machine and just pulling the pin and putting it at the bottom and just trying to heave one out. So yeah, I know women who kind of think in this way to where the traditional, non-traditional or whatever. But again, that shouldn't stop you, right? So if you're thinking that, if you're like, well, I'm a woman, I shouldn't be lifting weights, it's clearly not the case, right, at all. By science, science says, hey, men, women, you got to lift some weights, right? Your body needs resistance. You need to have some lean muscle mass, so you got to do it. If you're trying to lose weight, you got to lift the weights, right, regardless of gender. So don't let that get in the way, or don't let that thinking kind of deter you from doing it. Again, you don't have to do it like the traditional bodybuilders you see in there. I actually say that nobody really should be doing that. But either way, I don't know. Did I get canceled? Did I get canceled? I don't know. I don't think I got canceled during that. I didn't mean to talk about any of that. And just to be clear, I don't think any of that. I am not I do not think in those traditional terms, like, I don't even have to repeat them. You know what they are, the the common things that I don't know if it's a lot of men, but a good amount of men in the past kind of assigned these traditions for women. I've never agreed with that. I've never thought that way. And I hope after hearing me just bumble through all that, hopefully you don't think that I think that way. But either way, let's move on to number 5. One of the common mistakes is choosing low-fat or diet foods. And this is huge. This is a huge thing that I've seen throughout the years, forever. Someone says they're going to be losing weight. Someone says, hey, I'm going to lose 20 pounds this year. I just started my diet yesterday. And then I see them later on in the day with a huge Robex or Jamba Juice smoothie or something, some low-fat, some sort of low-fat yogurt or whatever. And, it's none of that is that person's fault. Like there's these foods, these products, these smoothies try to advertise as if they are the healthier option. And if you're not familiar with the space, you might be like, yeah, this is a healthier option, so I'm just going to do this. This is better than the cheeseburger I ate yesterday, so this is a healthy option. And unfortunately, again, you're trying to lose weight, you got to go through a sea of crap. And this is one of them, getting poorly marketed products that say they're going to help you lose weight or say they're low in this when they're actually high in something else, like a smoothie. Smoothies are typically very high in sugar. They actually have an example right here. For instance, 1 cup of low fat, right? So you read it and it says low fat and you think to yourself, oh, well, I'm going to help reduce fat. So low fat fruit flavored yogurt can contain 47 grams of sugar. All right. I think the daily recommendation for sugar is like 29 grams, if that, right? So one just yogurt cup, again, people kind of conflate yogurt healthy together. But that's most of the time not the case. So one thing that is a common mistake is just grabbing these foods that say that there's something else, that they're foods that say they are something that they're not. And again, this is an unfortunate thing about our society, but it's something that you got to kind of navigate through. Check what it is. If you're buying it from, when you're buying it from a restaurant, when you're buying it from a gas station, grocery store, whatever it is, you got to check the label. You got to look at it. All right. You got to Google it. Okay. You can't just pick it up. I think even on me doing this podcast, I was drinking a drink that I thought was somewhat healthy and it had like 25 grams of sugar in it. This coffee is no classic, right? So no classic syrup. It took me forever to realize that they were pumping. It took me just like watching them make my coffee one day to see them just pumping this sludge, this syrup into my coffee. And that's their natural classic syrup that if you just order a regular iced coffee, you just say, hey, I want an iced coffee. They're going to put 7 pumps of syrup into your coffee. And that equals out to like over 20 grams of sugar or something like that. So just in something like this, it's a problem. So again, it's one more thing that you got to do, but it is something you got to do. So don't make the mistake of, especially smoothies. Smoothies are a big one. Yogurt's a big one. It just has a bunch of sugar in it. And you shouldn't be messing around with it. They even suggest just don't go towards processed food, right? Processed food, you kind of got to get away from it. Now, going over to number 6. Am I moving through this too fast? Fast enough? What time am I at? Oh, not fast enough, I don't think. All right, number 6. A common mistake people make is that they overestimate how many calories that they burn during exercise. This is almost a relic of the past, as you would say, because this doesn't need to happen, right? If you get on a treadmill, if you get on one of the stationary bikes, it's going to give you how many calories that you're burning, but it's very generic. It doesn't know anything about you other than maybe your heart rate if you grab the handles, if that is accurate. It doesn't know your weight, doesn't know you at all. So you don't have to do that. There is a great product out there. I almost don't even want to tell you because they're not, no, I don't have any sponsors, but if they did want to sponsor, I would love them for a sponsor. It's Whoop. I wore the Whoop for like 6 months or a year, wore it for a while, and that really gets to know you. If you wear it all the time, it's monitoring a lot of different, I forgot the specific parameters or the specific things it monitors, but it knows everything about you. It knows how you sleep, it knows how you walk, it knows how you breathe, it knows if you're recovered, if you're not recovered, and it is highly accurate. So instead of instead of getting on the treadmill and just guessing to yourself, looking up on Google to see, well, I just, was on the treadmill for 60 minutes. This is about how many calories I burned. Instead of doing that, just buy something like the Whoop strap, something that keeps an accurate account of how many calories you're burning. And this is how you can kind of go around that. But a common mistake is, again, you're trying to feel good. You're trying to feel good about yourself. All of us, most people, got a little bit of ego in themselves. They want to feel better about themselves at the end of the day. And one way you could do that is to jump on a treadmill, stay on there for 30 minutes and be like, man, I just burned 900 calories. When in fact, well, here's a study. They did a study. Doesn't say how many people were in the study, but they did a study. And basically, these people thought that they burned 800 calories. They were asked, they went and worked out. They were asked, hey, how many calories did you just burn? They go, I burned 800 calories. It was a killer. And in the end, they actually only burned 200 to 300 calories. So this is a common thing that people do. Is it a hubristic thing? I don't know if that's an accurate way to say it, but we are notorious for overestimating our abilities. Most people are, especially when it comes to calories burned. You're going to overestimate most of the time. So which can throw, again, 500 calories could mean you're in a caloric deficit, a la losing weight, or you're in a caloric surplus, a la you're gaining weight. So 500 calorie difference can really make or break if you're actually losing weight or not. So I would suggest getting an accurate representation, coughing up some dough. I think the Whoop strap is you pay like $50 to buy it, and then it's like $30 a month, which is kind of pricey. But I think it's for sure 100% worth it. So yeah, that's number 6. Number 7 is not eating enough protein. And I know in the world we live in now, even though there's like less than 15% or something like that, people are vegan. A lot of people are talking about vegan, Beyond Meat, all this alternatives to protein, which alternatives to protein is going to be good for you, right? But a lot of people are moving away from meat, things like that. And I would say that meat is probably one of the better ways that you're going to get protein. So even though a lot of people are talking about, being more plant-based, it seems like protein is the way to go when you're trying to lose weight. One way it helps you is it helps maintain and helps you grow lean muscle mass. Again, we already talked about how important that is for you. And this actually, studies have actually shown that eating enough protein, right, especially if you switch out compared to just like your typical In-N-Out meal. You go to In-N-Out, you get the burger, you get the fries, you get the shake. How much protein is in there? If you get a double, you just got 2 little thin slices of protein in there, and the rest is just, it's just carbs. So switching that out to something to, go grabbing a chicken breast, go grabbing a piece of salmon or a piece of steak with some vegetables, huge difference for you. And it's actually shown that if you're eating enough protein, that you can reduce your appetite, clearly important if you're trying to lose weight. You can increase your feelings of fullness, right? So your satiety. I think I said that wrong. My words when I'm trying to do this podcast, there's like nerves that come up and just screws up every word that I try to say. But so yes, you're going to feel full quicker. So that means that you're more than likely going to stop eating. It also decreases your calorie intake. It increases your metabolic rate again. So that is important for you. And again, protects your muscle mass during weight loss. Because if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to be clearly losing weight, losing fat. But you also don't want to be just taking out your lean muscle mass. Now, they did another study. So there was a 12-day study, not very long. All right, so that's not a very long study, but they did a 12-day study containing a certain amount of people that ate a diet of 30% of their diet of calories was from protein. And per day, they ended up consuming an average of 575 less calories, fewer calories per day than when they were eating 15% from protein. So they just basically doubled their amount of protein that they were eating, and they found that they were eating about 600 calories less, which again, if you're trying to lose weight, you got to get into a caloric deficit, and being able to consume 600 calories less by eating more protein, that's huge for your numbers. That makes it much easier for you to get into a caloric deficit. So eating enough protein is very important, and not eating enough protein is clearly the number 7 mistake. You like that? That was good. All right. Just messing around. All right. Number 8 is not eating enough fiber. All right. Fiber's great. It's gonna, I would not try to eat a lot of fiber. All right. But fiber, look, it's, yeah. And they even say right here, a low. Thing with fiber is I think too much of it is not going to be the best thing for you. But making sure that you are getting some fiber is going to be great for you, because it helps. It kind of, they talk about it right here, is that it kind of forms this gel that holds water, and it makes you feel full, which again, to me, that's not really a great reason to increase your fiber, just to make you feel full by lining your digestive tract with this fiber that just retains a bunch of water. So I'm a little indifferent on there, but they say number 8, not eating enough fiber, right? Number 9, eating too much fat on a low-carb diet. So one of the problems if you go into a low-carb diet, it kind of opens the door for all these different types of food. And now they have, I did a ketogenic diet before ketogenic diet was a thing, and there was no food to eat. That was like the main reason I stopped the ketogenic diet, because it's just difficult to find food that's keto friendly, right? And now there's food all over the place, keto friendly food. And one thing that happens is, like anything, even though it's keto friendly food, you still get little weirdos making the food who want to hide certain things. Like it might have, you might eat it, right? And you're thinking to yourself, it's like this little fat bar, right? That they have, this little fat bomb. I think it's even a name of one. And you just think, well, this is a ketogenic diet. This is a low carb diet. I'm supposed to be upping my intake of fat. This thing says it has a bunch of fat. It's keto friendly. Boom, I'm eating it. But then, of course, it has sugar in it, right? It has added sugar. And if you're not keeping track of these things, you're not keeping track of the calories, you're just like, oh, it's fat, consume the fat. And that's clearly something that is a problem if you're trying to lose weight. And that's all they're really saying there. They're kind of saying also is that, like, for whatever reason, just because it's a ketogenic diet, you stop checking the label. Which, if you listen to this podcast, you got to be checking the label. So this is one of those no shit kind of, I think I'm deep enough into the podcast where I can swear a little bit. This is one of those no shit kind of areas. Like, oh, don't eat too much fat. Yeah, of course. All right, number 10, eating too often, even if you're not hungry. This is the number one no duh part of this whole entire list. Of course, if you're trying to lose weight and you're eating too often, it's an issue, okay? If you're trying to lose weight, your focus should be on limiting the portions and limiting the amount of times that you sit down to eat. Naturally, I mean, this is just something, this is automatic. You're trying to lose weight, this is where your focus goes. So for you to be trying to lose weight but still eating a bunch, I mean, you're completely off the rails. You're not even trying to lose weight. So this is kind of a weird little tip to be in here. It's like talking to somebody who isn't actually trying to lose weight, you know? So this is a no-duh one, so we'll just cruise right past this. But yeah, don't eat too often. Limit the amount of times you're eating. Next one, number 11, this is a huge one, and it's not a popular one to go against. To go against this is not the typical way to do things. But number 11 is having unrealistic expectations. This is a huge issue, right? And I'll read this quote real quick. Researchers analyzed data from several weight loss center programs. They reported that the overweight and obese women who expected to lose the most weight, right? These people were in a study. They're like, I'm going to lose weight. And you know what? Screw all of you. I'm going to lose the most weight. You know, these people, you get in a group of people, there's always these like, I'm going to do this. They're the dreamers. They're the, I want to be overachievers. But guess what? Those people, through this study, were the most likely to drop out of a program after 6 to 12 months. So that is, it's evidence. It's not the best evidence to go against this, but that is some evidence to, hey, don't have completely unrealistic expectations. Now, I am all for shooting for the moon and going to the moon. I'm all for, putting a big picture goal up there and trying to achieve that. And when people tell me that things are unrealistic, that usually means that I'm going to try to realize it and make it realistic. So that kind of pushes me in a different direction. I can see how, me telling you, hey, stop having unrealistic expectations, that can kind of irritate you. And that's where I'm kind of indifferent on this. You should have big goals, right? If you're weighing 330 pounds and it's on the BMI index or whatever, the CDC is saying, hey, with your height, your age, you should actually be around 160 pounds. I don't see why you should not have that goal. I don't see why you should be like, oh, well, they're telling me to be about 160. I'm going to be about 150 jacked, right? I think I don't know if that's an unrealistic goal, right? If you put in the effort over a period of time, it's completely doable. So I don't think you should limit something like that. But if you're like, hey, I got to lose 100 pounds in the next month, that would be considered unrealistic. So usually if you're adding on a quickness, if you're trying to find the fastest way to do it, if you find your goals attached to additional words that say, I'm going to lose this weight by this date, which is only 2 months away. I'm going to lose it the fastest. I'm going to get it done before summertime. I'm going to get it done before the fall. And it's a large amount of weight, and you got to do a whole bunch of these things in a very short amount of time. I would say those would be unrealistic expectations, and those should definitely be something that you push away from, just on the timeline scale. But if you push out the timeline far enough, a lot of these things can actually be realized. So you kind of got to walk that line. But yes, don't think that, again, today is, June 8th, right? June 9th for you. July 4th is right around the corner, less than a month away. If you're like, hey, by July 4th, I'm going to have a 6-pack abs, but you're over 60 pounds overweight, look, that's unrealistic, okay? I'm sorry. Again, it's not popular to say this. I would say shoot for next summer. But yes, don't have those unrealistic expectations. And again, it's hard for me to say what's real, what's not. But yeah, just be wary of that. Now, moving on to number 12, not tracking. Yeah, here's a great one. Not tracking what you eat in any way. And this would be a no-duh one, but I can definitely see and I've talked to people who say they're going to lose weight and they don't track what they're eating, all right? And to me, I smile, I chuckle a little bit. But look, if you're trying to lose weight, I've said it here many times, said it on my videos many times, you got to put in more effort than you think. It's going to be annoying, and it's not going to be something that you want to do. And one of the things that most people don't want to do, one thing that I for sure don't want to do, is track what I'm eating. I work out very hard to make sure I don't track what I'm eating. You get me? You feel me? But if you're trying to lose weight, you cannot go around this. You have to track what you're eating. You have to know the caloric deficit is the thing that's going to be one of the biggest factors of you losing weight, is actually consistently being in a caloric deficit. And if you're not tracking your weight, you're just kind of guessing, right? You're just guessing about the food that you're eating. And also if you're not tracking how many calories you're burning, you're just guessing at that. And we've already established that our guesses are usually going to be overestimating our abilities or underreporting the amount of calories that we are consuming. So that's clearly an issue. That means that you're more than likely going to be in a caloric surplus if you're not keeping track. So I would say you got to take the chip off your shoulder. A lot of people who think that they can just go about this without keeping track kind of have a chip on their shoulder, right? Sorry to say, but you got to take that chip off, and you have to keep track of what's going on. Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering around. And if you find yourself 2 months, 3 months later, and you've only lost a nominal amount of weight, or you haven't lost really any weight, this is for sure the reason why. And maybe you have to experience that to do it, right? Maybe that is who you are, but also you can just listen to this and start tracking your weight or tracking the calories that you're eating. So that's a huge mistake, and definitely do not fall prey to that. Next one, number 13. We're almost done, all right? I don't know if this is good, it's bad. Comment below. I'm sure if you think it's bad, I don't really have to tell you to comment below. You're already doing it. But number 13 is a common mistake people make, is that they still drink sugar. So one of the biggest contributors to weight gain and the amount of calories and sugars you consume in a day is the drinks. A lot of people like the soda. A lot of people like the sugary drinks. And even if you're trying to lose weight, like they give a great example in here. Like if you're trying to lose weight and you typically start your morning off with a large Coke, or you end your afternoon with a large Coca-Cola, right? They're not a sponsor, of course. But let's say that's what you usually drink. And then you're like, hey, I'm going to try to lose weight, so I'm going to drink some apple juice. But wait, I almost picked up the sweetened apple juice, and that would have been a no-go. That would have meant too much sugar in my body. So you decided to pick up the unsweetened apple juice. And in your mind, you're like, hey, this is great. This ain't a Coke. This is unsweetened apple juice. It's apples. It's juice. It's unsweetened. It has to be good for me, right? Well, they showed that a 12-ounce container filled with unsweetened apple juice contained 36 grams of sugar. And that's more than a 12-ounce can of Coca-Cola. So, again, there is just a sea of crap. You got to kind of disperse, and you got to kind of push out of your way. There's a lot of traps, a lot of booby traps. You know, think of Data from the Goonies. Booby traps. That's a throwback reference. But yeah, so there's a bunch of booby traps that you can be falling into, and they're all over the place. Again, like just, you're in a rush, you're at 7-Eleven, you got to pick up some things, you're trying to pick up a water, but then as you go for the water, you're like, yeah, but I also want a little bit of flavor in here. So you grab the unsweetened apple juice. You don't look at the label because you're like, it says unsweetened, right? The unsweetened part is that kind of like false, murky advertising. But then all of a sudden you're drinking 36 grams of sugar, and the sugar that you're trying to avoid, you just pumped into your system. So and that same thing goes for the smoothies I was talking about before as well. The smoothies just have added sugar in it. The coffee has added sugar in it. So you got to be wary of all these things. So just make sure you're checking out that. Now, number 14, I'm going to go through these next two quick. Number 14, not reading labels. You got to read the labels. I've already hammered this one home throughout this whole entire list and on other videos that maybe you've seen me do. You got to read the labels. You got to check into it, of course, right? Next up, number 15, the last common mistake is not eating whole single food ingredients. So typically, if you find yourself in the overweight, obese category, you more than likely got there from processed food. A lot of the food that you get in grocery stores, a lot of food that you get all over the place is processed food. Processed food's quick, it's cheap, it has high profit margins, but it's absolutely horrible for our bodies. But it is all over the place. And if you're trying to lose weight, you really have to scrutinize the food that you're eating before and scrutinize the new food that you're trying to eat and try to stay away from as much processed food as you can. Like when you go to get dinner, you should just go grab yourself a package of chicken breasts and some asparagus, and that's about it. Maybe some rice, right? It's not exciting. It's not necessarily delicious as the food that you're eating before, but it is what's necessary if you're trying to lose weight. So, common mistake, still eating highly processed food. Try to stay away from that. Let's end it with the quote, and then the Fit Freak of the Week real quick. Actually, we'll get into the Fit Freak of the Week. So, look, this dude's name is Emilian De Falco. Emilian De Falco. He is an actor, athlete, artist. He's from France and the United States. He is demystifying his childhood dreams, and he does not own a shirt. And he is the Fit Freak of the Week. He absolutely kills it. You can see him trying to kill a little dummy. He's putting out some really intense rage on that, running around. It's a red flag. But he's really killing it out there. This dude's trying to get Insta famous, and I am entertained. He's doing backflips. It's great. He's got these is this a warning that maybe you shouldn't be doing backflips all the time because you got these knee wraps on every time? If you watch this podcast, sometimes I accidentally talk smack on these people. I'm trying not to do that. These exercises, if you're watching the podcast, they're always weird to me. But again, he's a fit freak, right? He's a fit freak. He does a lot of body weight things. He's got a great body, and yeah, this is what I like to see, because again, this isn't your typical, bodybuilder that's just stuck in the gym who couldn't even, most bodybuilders could not move their body in this fluid of a way and with this much athleticism. I really like the athleticism. And is he in the PFL? Oh no, he's watching. Never mind. So yeah, he's a Fit Freak of the Week. Go check him out if you want to see what the human body is capable of. If you want to see somebody do some crazy things with knee wraps on, backflips, kicking, destroying a dummy, again, just doing the push-ups, hands out thing. You want to see some six-pack abs? Go check out Emilian. I for sure said that wrong. Emilian De Falco. Remember Falco from The Replacements? Again, another throwback. Born in the 90s. I was born in 89. 90s baby. Replacements with Falco as a quarterback. Great movie. Keanu Reeves. What's up? But let me end it off with a quote, right? So go check him out. Everything's linked down below. And here's a quote from Tim S. Grover. This man has written this book called Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable. It's an absolutely great book to just open your mind on what it really means to be relentless. This dude, I believe, was the strength coach or kind of mind coach for Michael Jordan for like 15 years or something like that. So this dude is like entrenched in this, mindset of how to be the best, how to be relentless. And I think this quote kind of hands itself well to people trying to lose weight. And here's a quote: "Being relentless means demanding more of yourself than anyone else could ever demand of you. Knowing that every time you stop, you can still do more. You must do more," right? So I think this is a great quote because a lot of people who are trying to lose weight, you can kind of cap yourself, right? You can kind of limit yourself by getting to a place to where you're like, oh, well, this is better than where I was 3 months ago. So this is good. This is comfortable. I'm going to stay here. And a lot of people do this. A lot of people fall into this, they go through this first initial phase of being in the gym and they make these huge improvements and they do all these different things. But then they've done these things week in and week out for several weeks, several months. And this is where most people are just going to get comfortable in these exercises, comfortable with the weight and the sets and the reps that they're doing. They're not going to want to do different types of cardio. They're not going to want to do these different things. People become creatures of habit because a lot of people are this way, and this can definitely happen. Unless you have this quote in your mind to where it's telling you that every time you stop, you can still do more. So even if you just completed your hardest workout ever, I would argue that you should still, a little bit of yourself, sit there at the end of the day and be like, yeah, this is what I do. Yeah, that was great and all, but I can do more now. I just reached a new height, which means that I can go even higher. Maybe not the next time I work out, but maybe in another month or two, I can actually reach a higher amount. And that's the new goal. I can do more. And I think this is a mindset that lends itself well to trying to lose weight. Is to not get comfortable in any condition that you're in, and to just continually just be relentless and ask for more. So I should have started off with that. I mean, that's a great quote. But yeah, that's this week's podcast. All right. I don't know if I did that too quick. I don't know what happened over the course of the last 40 minutes. But I hope you liked this episode. Hopefully it was good. Comment below, like it, share it, tell some people about it. Go to my website, go check out some things. Maybe sign up for the membership if you want. Other than that, I'll see you here next week. Thanks for tuning in. Adios.